So let's begin with today's topic, cloud transformations, complexities, challenges, and strategies. My name's Ali Sajjad Muhammad. I'm Cloud Solutions Architect in Connecticut, having 15 years of total IT experience with expertise in various domains like banking, oil and gas, telecommunications, and many more. Also having expertise in one of the biggest banks in India, ICICI Bank. About Connecticut, we are a consulting partner with Amazon Web Services and a gold partner with Microsoft. We are into digital transformations, automations, and cloud migrations with more than 40 plus company clients. What do we have? So what do we do? We partner with global enterprises in making them more efficient with cloud migrations, transformations, and modernization with high performant and cost effective solutions. Our agenda today is about the first point in agenda is enterprises considering to move to cloud. We will be looking a little brief about what are the benefits that normally the organization, the enterprises, the companies will be looking, and what are their priorities, why they choose to move on cloud. The second point in agenda is, which is normally the first point is not really something that is the news anymore, but still there are a lot of people who are not really, they don't really know the complete picture about the benefits of the cloud. So we'll be looking briefly about those benefits. And the next point in our agenda is companies on the edge to move out of cloud. This might be quite surprising that are for few people. Are there any companies who are planning to move out of cloud? Yes, indeed. Not only they are planning, but there are companies who have already moved out of cloud. They are back to their on-premises data centers. So we will be looking into those reasons. What are those challenges they face? What are those complexities? Why the companies have moved out of cloud? So addressing those challenges or foreseeing them and calculating and designing a perfect, the desired architecture on the cloud could have helped them to stay on cloud. So we will be looking on those briefly. The third point in our agenda is about companies still reluctant to move on cloud. So we will be looking into those reasons why the companies are still reluctant to move on cloud and how those reasons can be addressed. So the first point, as per our agenda, why move to cloud, the companies? Well, in short, it's appealing, it's innovative, and user-friendly in nature, of course. And if we go more specifically, the first point that the companies will be looking in is about the cost reductions. Their huge investments in their data centers, on their infrastructures, on their storages, on their servers, on their procurement of the softwares. So all these come into a huge investment. So the companies, when they move on cloud, the cloud offerings are in such a way that, of course, the clouds have a huge benefits when it comes to the cost reduction. So the first point is cost reduction, which companies find it really appealing, and then that is very easy for their management for any decision making to move on cloud, and then that becomes the first reason. The second reason, high performant architectures, of course. Like when back then on premises, there are certain applications where since a number of months or maybe years as well, they are not getting those desired performance outputs from their infrastructure, from their applications, from the databases, no matter how much they tune it from the database perspective, application perspective, or the storage or IOPS, everything. Probably they might have tried everything, and then still they're not getting the desired result. So that becomes the second reason that public clouds offer the high to extreme performance architectures on the cloud. So that becomes more appealing for the companies to opt for the cloud. The third is automations, where we have, a number of resources uh, pumping more investments on the on-prem, where the resources, in the human resources, of course, the engineers, where the databases that can be, the things that can be automated, they are still being managed manually. Definitely, that will result into the increase in the number of engineers while managing the databases or the application support teams. So that also, when we go into the public cloud, there are a number of features which are offered as, like, the auto backups that can take care of the backups without being giving the 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 problems, while storing the backups, while maintaining the scripts, the maintaining the backups, so how the redundancy, the archiving of the backups, all such things can be taken care on the public cloud. That is the auto backups features on the cloud. And then we have auto failovers and auto patching. Like, if you talk about auto patching, that was a very daunting task when we were on the on premises. Patching, that requires downtimes, that requires that involves risks while patching the databases. And then you can end up with the corruption, with the binary corruption, and sometimes even it leads to the databases, the data corruptions as well. So the patching was really a daunting task, and now when it is on the cloud, it's the public cloud's responsibility to auto patch the databases, the servers, the operating systems, the underlying storage devices. So everything is now being auto patched, and moreover, they provide minimal to no downtime features as well. So that's really appealing. And then we have autonomous databases, which the public clouds are offering, which takes care of almost everything for it are completely self-managed. We can say it's all self-managed, like auto backups, auto patching, and the performance tuning, the scaling, everything is being taken care by the public clouds itself. So that is again another appealing feature. Next is as it's a managed services. When we say managed services, there are features like IaaS, that's the infrastructure as a service, and then we have PaaS model, which is the platform as a service, where you have the application and then you know what the database should be. You just dump it on the PaaS model of the any of the public cloud offering, and then it takes care of your managing the databases, you're managing the load balancers, the applications, the instances, then the scaling, the auto scalings, everything will be automatically managed on the managed services feature of the public clouds. And then we have the software as service, similar benefits as the PaaS model. And then we have DBaaS model, the one which we have just discussed about, the autonomous databases. Like, autonomous are the fully managed databases, whereas the we also have the semi-managed databases, like the RDS instances in AWS, which are semi-managed on the public cloud. So that way we have the managed services are also quite appealing on the clouds, which the companies opt for. And then we have improved efficiencies. When we say the cost reductions, we do not want to, the organizations, the companies do not want to compromise on the performance, of course, on the security, on the scaling factors. So we are getting everything along with the cost reduction, that is improved efficiency. So that is offered on the public cloud. Then another one of the great benefits on the public cloud is about the elasticity. So when we are on the on-premises, like when we are purchasing some storage, we are purchasing some instances, there we are paying the upfront. We are reserving the amount, and we are investing for no matter how much we are going to use the storage out of that storage box. Now here, when we are on the public cloud, it is like pay as you go model. That means you are going to only pay for that part which you are going to use it. So that is really beneficial and really appealing, and and innovative, that the companies will definitely look into that factor, that when you are not investing upfront, and then you just have to pay for what you're using, and then it can again, you can just come back. Elasticity is like, you are on 100 GB, but sometimes for any year-end task, you might need a 500 GB of storage, or it could be vice versa, the CPUs or the RAMs. I mean, whichever resources you can take as an example. So it can grow for only a specific period of time, for any maybe month-end process or year-end process, and then you have to come back to the original resources. So this elasticity model on the public cloud is really beneficial for that type of applications and the databases. So definitely almost all the applications and databases needs that kind of elasticity, which is available on the public cloud. And then we have a business continuity model, which means if you combine all these pay-as-you-go model, and then the automations the autonomous databases has, and the high performant architectures, and the availability and the max availability, high availability, and the disaster recovery setups which public cloud is giving, with all the auto managed features, the managed services models. So that definitely assures the business continuity, which is include the seamless continuity of the application, seamless backup, synchronous applications, and then the maximum highly available DR setups. Then we have another really appealing benefit of cloud is the effortless scaling, which means it could be either horizontal, or it could be a vertical scaling. The scaling is really effortless when it comes to the cloud. When you are on premises, the scaling is it's a really daunting task. Like, you need to start from the beginning. Like, if you are running out of the, say, like storage, now you need to initiate it, you escalate it first, then the escalation goes to the senior management, then it goes to the decision-making team, whether we need to procure storage, or we need to make space within the existing data, and that will kick out some more additional activities. And then the storage, sometimes you may have to hit the downtimes, and unexpected downtimes as well. So there are a huge problems when it comes to the running out of space, running out of resources on the on-premises data centers. So when it is on scaling, apart from that, the decision-making team will take it, and then once the decision is finalized, you go for a procuring, and then once it is procured, the servers needs to be transferred, and then it needs to come to the data center. It's going to take a huge time. It's number one, it's a time consuming factor, and then it also involves major risk during this time consuming process. There might be scenarios, there might be times where your application might hit the downtime, and then your database might hit the downtime, and then you have to face that definitely affects the continuity of the business. So but when you are on the cloud offers the effortless scaling, which means you are just a few clicks away from scaling your infrastructure. It could be storage, it could be other CPU resources, or it could be RAM, it could be instances. You just name it, and you are just click away from scaling the infrastructure. Similarly, one more really appealing factor on the cloud is increased agile deployment. Agile deployment in itself is a really advanced business. There's advanced technology that the development is currently using, but the blocking factors which could block that agile deployment on the on-premises can be served on the cloud. So I can put the sentence like this. So yeah, definitely agile deployment in itself is a very really great innovative the process, but added with the cloud, it gives the increased agile deployment. One example is like your deployment team is running out of the servers. They don't have servers to do more revised testing again and again, and having, as we said, procuring a new servers, availability of the servers on the on-premises is really a challenging factor. So when you are on the cloud, it's just a click of buttons, and then you just get a new server. And if you add the elasticity model, which is a pay as you go model, if you add that factor, it is like you're adding it, and you're not purchasing it for permanently. You're just using it once you got the your deployment done, or you're done with the process. You just release the server, and then you just don't have to pay it anymore on that service as well. So this is a slide, a very brief glance about the benefits about the cloud. So what's more appealing on the cloud? If we see that the previous slides, the two major factors, what could be the major reasons for companies to opt for the cloud? Definitely, all these process which we all these features which we have seen are all appealing and innovative. But do the companies really look for all these factors, or are there any? Because there are some features which could not pass through that hectic decision making process. When it goes to the senior management, you'll get hundreds of questions like, why do you really need this kind of agile deployment? You do it over here on the on-premises, that is fine, because there is an investment already done on the data center. So how do you want to get rid of those questions? It becomes really difficult. But there are two very important, highly important factors which becomes the primary reasons for the companies to, where the decision making teams also can quickly move and go for the approvals for moving on the cloud. Is number one, it's the performance efficiency. Like as I said, there are applications, databases which are not getting that desired outputs, the desired performance output when they are on the on-premises. No matter how much they have scaled the resources, they have done a tuning on the databases, their applications, they have done everything they could, but the desired outputs are not being yielded from the on-premises data center. So that could be a really appealing factor for the decision-making teams as well, and the higher management teams. So where the public cloud offerings have a greater benefits when it comes to the performance efficiency, where you have a number of options available over there. We will be discussing all these features in detail in our probably next sessions of the webinar. So like for example, you have a Elastic Cache feature available on the on-premises. Elastic Cache is nothing but providing a in-memory feature, adding the in-memory on no matter on which type of database you are. Like if you want to go to in-memory databases, you have to change your complete infrastructure from the normal database to you have to opt a complete in-memory database, the complete technology. You have to change the technology. But when you are on the cloud, no matter on which database you are, you just add that in-memory factor, that is the Elastic Cache, and then you get that benefit of the the caching of the data. So that way you get the added performance. Apart from that, you have the CloudFront distributions available on the public cloud, where you can store your data on the edges, on the edge locations in multiple destinations throughout the globe. So that is another great benefit of the of having a cloud in terms of performance efficiencies. So the next a principal reason that could be a factor, that could be a deciding factor for moving on cloud is cost optimization. So that is the actual, we can say partly like 50% companies opt for the performance efficiencies and 50% are there for the cost optimization. So as we discussed, like pay as you go models, the automations, the managed services models. So these all, apart from that, well architected and the perfectly designed and perfectly planned architecture system could really give the benefit of this cost optimization factor of the cloud. We need to look into that in detail. So here These were the actual benefits, we can say, brief about these benefits, which as I said, we will be going in more detail in our next webinar session of this particular point in this agenda of this agenda. Here is a slide glance about this well-architected framework, which more or less almost all the public clouds you talk about Oracle cloud infrastructure, you take an example of AWS, Amazon Web Services, GCP, Google Platform, or Microsoft Azure. So all these public clouds, they are providing a guaranteed well-architected framework with a certain number of pillars, and the number of pillars could be slightly differing from one or the other public cloud, but end of the day, almost all are providing these similar factors. That is the operational excellence pillar, security pillar, reliability pillar, performance efficiency pillar, cost optimization pillar, and sustainability pillar. Now, about the second agenda of our webinar, that is why companies are on the edge to move out of cloud. Now, this is, as I said, it could be quite surprising for few people that is it really a fact that companies are moving out of cloud while every company is thinking about moving on cloud. Are there really some companies who are planning to move out of cloud? Yes. As per the recent Forbes report, it says a number of companies are repatriating from cloud. And it further says, what could be the reasons? The reasons is like, it discusses about the reasons. It's all the calculations, the reasons which the Forbes present is like the cost appears to be the predominant driver of repatriation. As cloud consumption scales, so does the operating system, potentially eating away the IT budgets. Additionally, 40% of respondents to our study listed security and compliance as the main reasons for repatriating workloads. So the first factor that is, the highlighting factor, which the companies, which becomes the main reason, which becomes the deciding factor for the companies for repatriating from the cloud, is the cost. Now, if we look at the Gartner's report that was recently published, it says it gives a graph about how the companies spend their cost, their investments when they are planning to move, and then until they have completely moved onto the cloud. If you look at this graph, it gives a very perfect example of the companies, how they have started their investment from the first quarter of the first year, where in the cloud costs, while purchasing the instances for their tests and their POCs and all. So overall, there are three types of cost. If you see at the top of the slide here, it is on-premises costs, migration investments, cloud costs. So these are three types of investments which the companies do. The first one, the dark blue, is about the actual investment, the previous investments which they were doing in the on-premises data centers. And then the added one is about the cloud cost. So now the next one at the end of the second quarter of the first year, the migration investment starts. And then by the end of the first year, third quarter, the migration investments doubles the investment what you are doing, which you were doing on the on-premises. So here the problematic factors begin. Now here, this could be the result of improper planning, or the designing factors, or the analysis. It could be a number of reasons. But yes, the companies are overspending when right from the beginning stage of the cloud migrations. If you see the year of the end of the first year, it is almost 4 times the investment they were doing on the on-premises. Now, the year by year, it just keeps on growing, and then by the end of second year, fourth quarter, there you are seeing a little bit of the benefit. Not even the benefit. It's little bit of decrease in that huge investment that you have started after the migration process was initiated. So, but the actual benefits you have, you started getting it from the end of the the third year, first quarter. So this slide gives a good picture. But the question here is like, how many companies could sustain this 2 years gap? I mean, 2 years process where they have to invest almost 3 times and sometimes 4 times. And there might be companies which are not part of this slide. They might be investing 5 times of their actual investment. And there might be companies who are not seeing the end. They are not even coming back, and they're not even started getting that benefits even after the end of the third and the fourth year as well. So that becomes the deciding factor for them to move out of cloud. And then here you see that the enterprises achieved by adopting the cloud. There are these number of companies who have opted out. So here, if you see that the cost saving, it is just the 8% is what they got as per their whatever the calculations they have made, what per the desired calculations, the planning what they have made. Out of that, they just have achieved the 8% of the benefit, or 8% of the benefit. The reason, again, I will not give my statement, rather I will give the Forbes report again, which was published in May 2022. It says, why businesses underestimate the complexity of cloud transformations. Inefficiency in calculating performance in terms of cost expenditures, proper justification of high availability and disaster recovery requirements. So it's just an example. I mean, I just took a few lines out of it. Like you might be calculating the requirement for the high availability and the disaster recovery requirements and the performance, of course. The performance is the major one. So all these, when you're planning, you are not really sure how much they're going to end up in your calculations, because as we said, it's on the cloud. It is as easy as a click of buttons. That is really appealing to go for resources that are really not required. That and apart from that, there are a number of reasons why the companies end up into going for their huge investments. I mean, almost like 3 times of their actual investments they were doing on their on-premises when they move on to cloud. So another, on top of that, like adding to that complexity, there are hybrid environments and then multi-cloud environments. Now, earlier, having a single cloud could have given the complexity could be slightly less. But when you go on to the multi-cloud, the complexity would have gone to 89%. And then further, when you have gone to hybrid cloud, it could be like 80%. It has, you got a huge the complexity out there when you are adding up the resources and adding up the complexity with the hybrid cloud and the multi-cloud environments. So that could be another reasons, that could be another factors that could have ended into that huge doubling up or maybe tripling of the investments. So how to deal with these complexities is not something that can be decided on the fly, but that requires very close understanding, planning, and then designing of the complete business infrastructure requirement, and then our desired outcomes. So it's a huge, it's an expertise job. Of course, it's an expertise job. I mean, just because of that simplicity on the cloud, without the moving on the cloud without planning and without assessing and without calculating the complexity of the migration and the complexity of the cloud, if we do not calculate it appropriately, definitely we are going to end up with the results which are really undesirable. So what do we need to do is we need to assess whether we have the right information before starting even thinking of moving on cloud. Do we have the complete understanding of how the application behaves, how the business behaves? What are the requirements? What are the basic requirements of the infrastructure, the functioning wise, the processes, the memory requirements, how the backup should be there, and how often we are going to hit the peak of the resources? Do we need to go for an auto scaling? So we need to have that complete right information. And then need to have the complete visibility of the application, and need to understand the dependencies. That is another major requirement. So like when people, the companies move on to the cloud, they do not assess the dependencies of the application or the databases or the business. Once they moved on to the cloud, they analyze, okay, these are the dependencies, and that takes a huge amount of time to arrange those dependencies. The process, the prioritization is not correct. So that could be a number of reasons out there. And then we need to perform the complete analysis of the migration process, and priority of the application, the prioritization of the, we might, companies might have some dozens of applications, smaller ones, and then if there are bigger companies, they might have even more than 100 or 200 applications running on their data centers. So now that will have some interdependency. The applications will be interdependent on each other. So while moving on cloud, we need to be very clear what needs to be prioritized, how the dependencies needs to be calculated, and needs to be completely assessed. And then, yeah, of course, like right cloud provider. Nowadays, we see the benefits. They are really appealing. So based on those appealing factors of the public cloud, we cannot directly move on and move to cloud and then choose any of the public cloud based on their offerings. We need to rightly assess and look what exactly is our requirement and how that fits in our environment. Probably they are getting the auto scaling feature, and we cannot directly go there and then opt for that auto scaling. Our application might not even need that auto scaling. You have the CloudFront distributions, and you have Microsoft, as you're also providing the CloudFront distributions, and then Amazon is also providing CloudFront distributions. So we cannot directly go and opt for the CloudFront distribution just because it is there, and it is really innovative, and it is a really fancy a product, fancy feature. Probably our application is not even being accessed from two regions or even one region. Maybe it is specific for one region. Going for cloud and distribution and having multiple regions is just waste of the investment. So we need to look into the proper cloud provider which actually fits our requirement. And probably here comes the actual the expertise challenge, where and assessing which part of the application can pick up which public cloud. So it could be like, your databases could go on to OCI, and your applications could go on to Azure. So it could be a mixture. That is what we call it as a multi-cloud or a hybrid cloud environment. And then, yes, of course, finally, we need to assess who is offering the best pricing model. So these are the keys to successful cloud migration planning. Prioritize what matters, plan for true cost of migration, collect data and intelligence, and start planning. Do you have the analysis you need? And do we understand the priority of applications? So this is what I think it got just repeated. Okay, so these are all the factors that needs to be assessed. Now, as we just discussed, we need to properly see that CloudFront distributions, whether they can be leveraged properly, auto scaling features are really required. And if it is about the databases, like what about the storage volumes? Like we might have opt for general purpose SSDs or the high IOPS, the SSD volumes. Probably our application can sustain, can be easily performing very well with the HDDs as well. So we are doing our wrong investments in the wrong place. So that could be the reasons, like RAID replicas. Do we really need RAID replicas or not? Or probably we just need to go with the availability zones. Either probably we might not even need the availability zones. So there are multiple such factors, like in-memory databases also. The caching is really important or not. We need to assess. And then the load balances, of course, there are a number of load balances. We need to be rightly choosing which type of load balancer we will be our application will need. So that was the end of the second point in our agenda. So that where we have discussed about the challenges on the cloud that the companies have faced, and then they have started moving out of cloud. So the conclusion of this point is we need to be assessing properly right from the beginning of the planning stage, or the initiation stage of the cloud migration. That, of course, will call for a appropriate partner, a really expertise partner who can mm, guide the companies about the better outcomes and the better benefits of the cloud. The partners to be engaged right from the beginning. So the next part, that is the last uh, point in our agenda, is about the why companies are reluctant to move to cloud. So yes, as I think most of the people know this factor, that there are companies who are reluctant to move on cloud. It could be, if you take an example of the banks. The banks are still not convinced about the security on the public cloud. Similarly, the first point it says like the data sovereignty regulations, which means there are companies, but these are more particularly, these are the government companies, and more specifically, these are in the Middle East, or some other regions as well, where the governments have that. There are stringent government regulations where they say that the data of belonging to their own country, it could be any data, should not be going out of their country, their regional location, geographical location. So for those reasons, the cloud offerings could be a limitation, because not all the public clouds, and even not all the countries, uh, not all the public clouds have their data centers in all the countries. So definitely, probably there might be a company somewhere in the Middle East, or in Africa, or in Asia, or Europe, who have this kind of regulation, and they do not have the data center, the public cloud they are opting for, or any public cloud might not have a data center in their own country. So that becomes a limitation for them to move on cloud. Now, to address that, I'll just answer those, the challenges, and right away I'll give you, I will be discussing about the how it is being addressed. Public clouds are now growing. They are growing their data centers. Earlier, there was one data center in the whole Middle East, AWS data center. Now they have grown with one more data center. It's in Dubai now. Similarly, OCI also, earlier it was one, now it is two. In other countries also, earlier there were only one, and then now they are increasing the data center. So probably that could give some breathing space for this limitation. Now, the companies may have that benefit of opting for the cloud. At least if those companies who have that stringent regulation about those companies residing in the countries who have the regulation that their data should be within their country, those countries might still have to, those companies might still have to wait until they get the data center in their countries. But at least those companies whose countries do not give the regulation is little bit broader, they say that, okay, not in our country but in our region. So that kind of regulation can be those companies in those regions can get benefit of the cloud with these increasing data centers in their regional uh, uh, locations. The next is security, which says 66% of IT professionals consider security to be a major challenge to cloud adoption. Why is that so? Yeah, there are companies who are not convinced with the security that is available on the cloud. It is something like, I mean, it's a debatable factor. Some say that it's just a myth, because everything that is available, all the security features, you take data on rest, data on move, or firewalls, data masking, database encryptions, or the storage encryptions, everything is now available on the public cloud as well. So what is the challenge? But it is still the myth. The public call it as a myth, because they say that Just because you are making the data available on the internet, that doesn't mean that is the security of the data is challenged. So it is as similar to it is available on the data center. If you are infrastructure, if your application, if your network has that breach, it could be on the cloud or it could be on the data center as well. So it is a debatable factor, but yes, there are a number of companies who are getting convinced with the security features which cloud companies are public clouds are offering. Then the next is vendor lock-in. Yeah, the vendor lock-in is what vendor lock-in means is, take an example, like I know the AWS has a offering that they call it as a Bezos law. I mean, it's like what they say is like, once you are into an AWS and you have opt for a for some service, for some resources, and your application is running, and then after every 18 months your cost will be cut in half. So that's the AWS Bezos law offer is. So that's really appealing, and then it's really interesting that if you are there for 18 months, the AWS will cut down your half of the cost of your infrastructure, of your resources, what are the services you are using over there. So if you see this graph over here, like if you go for 2008, the investment, and from there till 2022, it how rapidly the investment has come down. So this is a very appealing and a very interesting and a really beneficial factor. But at the same time, companies feel that this may lead to vendor lock-in. That means once they have opted for a feature, for a service on one public cloud, now after a certain X amount of time, the cost has gone down dramatically, gone down, and then now you are just paying a very minimal amount for that particular resource or the service or the feature on that particular cloud. Now probably that cloud is getting it's not the latest, it's not the latest trend in the market, it's not providing the latest not the benefits in the market. So now you want to move out of that cloud, but once you have to move out of the cloud, you want to go into a new cloud, there you have to start from the beginning. So that is the another challenge here about the vendor lock-in. Apart from that, there are another point is like some on the cloud you will be purchasing, you will be reserving certain instances. Like if you say that this instance you are going to use it for 10 years, and you just reserve that instance, you will get a good discount when you are purchasing an instance, and then you say you reserve it for 10 years. Excuse me. You reserve this instance for 10 years, you get a huge discount on that instance, probably less than 25% of the actual cost. But right after a year or 2 years, you just want to come out of the cloud, but you just because you have reserved that instance, you are not going to get that the amount returned, even though if you want to move out of the cloud, then you just are in the lock-in situation. So that's what is called as a vendor lock-in. So similarly, you have the existing data center investments that when you have already, this is also kind of the lock-in situation, that you have done your investment on your own on-premises infrastructure. Now you want to come out and you want to move to cloud, that becomes a lock-in situation, and then that the decision-making teams, the higher management teams, needs a bigger factors that can where they can think about removing those investments from the data centers and then going on to the cloud. So that is something really the high level decision making will be involved in this process. So if you add this vendor lock-in and the existing data center investment, these are a bit similar to each other. So the possible solution for these two is the which leads to the public cloud, the multi-cloud and the hybrid cloud environments. Again, as we discussed, multi-cloud and hybrid clouds are really complex, and that needs a very expertise job to look into right from the initial stage. You need to engage a proper, appropriate expertise partner who could who could be part of these migrations right from the beginning, from the planning stage, from the designing, and then from the initiation of the migration stage. So that is what is the skills gap. So if that skills gap is not available, or if you get the wrong skill, you will end up into going on cloud and then moving out of cloud. And if you are not getting that skill set, so that companies will be still reluctant. That becomes one of the reason that companies are still reluctant to move on cloud. So just a slide about multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. What else we could have? You can have Oracle, OCI, Google, so GCP, AWS, Azure, and your own data center. That is a mixture of your hybrid cloud. So the conclusions, I think I have already discussed all the conclusions for the first agenda, like why companies move on to cloud is something that we have already discussed, and then all the benefits. As I said, our next webinar will be more detail on each of those factors, like how you can get those benefits. And the second point in the agenda was why the companies are moving out of cloud, and the conclusion was like how to properly plan, assess, and then design, and then think about moving on cloud. So that is the conclusion about the second point. And then the third point was like why the companies are still reluctant to move on cloud, and then we have already discussed each of the factors and then how that can be addressed. So the final point I just read out in this conclusion, that is engaging the skilled partner, putting partner experience to work is a clear preference for study respondents, and should be a path to greater efficiency. So that's it for this webinar, guys. So if you have any questions, you can ask those questions, and then we will be closing the session out right after addressing those answers. Thank you.